Money. We've all got pretty different relationships with money. Some grow up with the you can't take it all to the grave with you, so spend it all while you have it mindset. Some prefer to have some savings as a comfy blanket that eases their mind at night. Some work tirelessly for minimum wage. Some work far less tirelessly for much more than minimum wage. Some will send you a Cash App request for your share of the $2 toll you went through with them on a trip they asked you to come on. And some won't even let you pay the bill if you try. But if there's one thing, one simple dream I can almost guarantee that most of us were sold on in regards to money, it would be that if you work hard, make sacrifices, and don't waste your money on anything, that you could, in theory, save your way to a Ferrari. You thought I was going to say house, didn't you? Wrong channel, buddy. Pack it up. This isn't the place for you. There is one thing that everyone seemed to forget to mention though, and it's the fact that you simply can't save your way to a brand new Ferrari. At least, not the one you want. To get the truly sought after cars, you need far more money than whatever is on the sticker. You might run a relatively successful business and have a good chunk of cash right now. Or maybe you even retire in 50 years with a healthy chunk of change to spare. But even if you wanted to blow it all on, let's even just say a new 992 GT3 RS, you wouldn't even be able to get the allocation. To even have a chance at owning one of these flagship cars, you need far more than just a little bit of wealth. You need to build relationships. And how do you do that? Well, it is just wealth. That's what it all comes back to at the end of the day. Because, I mean, you need to buy your way in. Of course, this is how luxury automakers gatekeep you. To break down exactly how, we're going to start with an acronym you might have heard before. The Clover acronym Ed from VinWiki made in his video on how to gain VIP status at Ferrari, the manufacturer who's arguably the absolute most egregious in terms of gatekeeping. Clover stands for collection, loyalty, options, volume, events, and racing. And these 6 factors all come together to create the minimum you supposedly need to potentially get allocated a new sought after Ferrari. Now, before we even get into it, you might notice people saying, no, Ed's wrong. What do you mean? All of this fluff isn't necessary. They might even themselves claim that they are a Ferrari VIP, but they have only ever fulfilled maybe 1 or 2 pieces of that supposed criteria. If that is you, maybe you should, chuck a bit of change my way, share a bit of that wealth with me. Or, if you want to be a cheapskate and do something for free, you could just like the video and subscribe, maybe click that new hype button. I hear it does something. But yes, rich people do live among us, even in YouTube comment sections. They might even be watching this video right now. Hell, they might even be reacting to this video right now. And you know what? They might be right. Maybe they did achieve Ferrari VIP status many years ago, and maybe they got it just from the sheer volume of purchases they made at one dealer and building that relationship. But even if that was the case, that doesn't mean that still holds true right now. Just like people who bought homes in 2008 with, just some spare change they had in the side of their couch after the crash that happened have, since then built a shit ton of equity in that property. A lot of these older Ferrari VIPs have likely also built equity in the brand over time. A lot of them probably just got their foot in the door when it was easier and still just happen to reap the benefits to this day from the connections and relationships they built over time. Whereas anyone new trying to enter that upper echelon now just has to do so much more to get the exact same seat at the exact same table. Basically, in the simplest terms possible, the power creep is insane. So, all right, now let's speed run this acronym real quick. Collection. You should have a lot of Ferraris, and the more flagship Ferraris you own, the better. Think F40s, F50s, Enzo, you get the picture. Ferrari would much rather keep it in the family and let you complete a set than sell their new flagship to someone who's got none. Loyalty. If you're known to own Ferraris, drive Ferraris, and keep those Ferraris for long periods of time, you get this one punched right out of your loyalty card. Options. When you buy your brand new Ferraris, even the ones you don't really want, you spec them out with as many high margin options as you can. Ferrari will love you that much more because of how hard they've managed to milk you dry. Volume. You need to be buying every Ferrari. Whatever your dealer gets in, you need to be on that list. Down to the most dog water cars they're pumping, you need to be swallowing. Events. You basically gotta be a walking Ferrari billboard and kiss some serious ass. To be fair, the events you get invited to after becoming a Ferrari VIP probably are really fun days out, and if you're rich enough to be that, I'm sure you'd love partaking in it. But regardless, if you are that fortunate, you gotta make them count. And lastly, racing. You gotta be racing in Ferrari challenge events, using some of the Ferraris you've purchased. Because again, Ferrari loves people who drive their cars. So if you're fortunate enough to be in the position financially, and just also happen to have the time to dedicate to doing all of this, then maybe, just maybe, can you get your allocation for a new flagship Ferrari? It doesn't stop there though. This goes way deeper than manufacturers just gatekeeping you from buying their cool new cars. Many of them start to gatekeep you in other ways too, but we'll get to that a little later. Now, there might be two very obvious questions floating around in your head right now. One, you've just talked about Ferrari, man. What about all the other manufacturers? And two, why does it even matter? If you're rich, just play the waiting game and buy the car you really want used a couple of years later. Let's start by answering the first question, and well, Ferrari is just the biggest and most predatory example of gatekeeping in the industry. There are still many others that do very similar things. Porsche, McLaren, Lamborghini, hell, even Ford got super specific with who they'd sell their new Ford GT to, and then filed a lawsuit against John Cena for selling his GT earlier than his contract allowed. And this is where we start to lean a little bit into the territory of kind of understanding where some of these manufacturers are coming from. I know, I hate the gatekeepy stuff too. That's why I am making this video. But in all seriousness, there does come a point where, as a high profile company, you need to have some sort of system in place to stop scalpers and resellers, because you can't really win, right? If you gatekeep, well, you're just a gatekeepy asshole. If you don't gatekeep, your sought after cars will be immediately scalped and resold for an inflated price to make a quick buck. And if you increase your supply so much to try and keep up with demand, it puts pressure on your company. You risk flooding the market, devaluing your brand image, and devaluing the car itself in the process. Because at the end of the day, whether anyone wants to admit it or not, the scarcity itself is part of the reason a lot of these really wealthy people want these limited number flagship cars. Limited build numbers sell better. Limited build numbers hold value better. And there are far more than a limited number of people interested in buying these flagship cars. Less than your average, crossover SUV, but a lot more than you'd expect, to be sure. And again, as much as I hate to say it, it does make quite a bit of sense, at least from these manufacturers' point of views, to gatekeep some of their cars just a little. So long as it remains legal to do so, it makes sense for a luxury brand to exclusively target and sell to loyal, higher profile clients with far more money to burn. Because those are the exact people who are far more likely to cop these ridiculous prices on the chin. They'll cop the ridiculous service costs. They'll cop the ridiculous parts costs. They'll cop the ridiculous literally everything costs and never really complain too much about it. Those type of buyers are their niche. From any other manufacturer's CEO's point of view, Ferrari does it the best. And I guarantee you most luxury automakers strive to be a little more like them in some way, even if it's just so they can generate a little bit more profit. Because at the end of the day, the high-end luxury market is a niche that near every single commercial business in existence is striving to get. Why do you think you see so many advertisements and marketing campaigns out there of certain brands trying to justify their premium price for their product, always trying their best to show you the ways that they are so much more premium than the other brands like them and why you should pay more to go with them. These guys don't mind losing a bunch of their cost-conscious customers if it means they can retain or even gain a fraction of new customers that accept the premium and have far deeper pockets to replace them. The richer your clients, the easier your life. You see it across everything. Trades, builders, photographers, graphic designers. Why do you think you see so many McMansions getting built all across the US when most people can't even afford a basic house, let alone that? It just doesn't make any sense, right? But when you consider all of the building companies just want to build the bigger, higher margin homes for richer clients because they just make way more money, way easier that way, then of course, that's just what's going to get built. I mean, how can you blame them? Everyone's trying to make the most amount of money they can for their time. Hell, I can even give you a simpler example. Recently, Microsoft increased their monthly subscription price of Game Pass Ultimate by 50%. And all you see are comments of people saying, horrible idea. What were they thinking? Why would they do this? Are they trying to kill Xbox, etc., etc.? As a consumer, I agree. It's shit. Fuck you, Microsoft. But do you really think this pushback isn't something that they accounted for? They aren't stupid. This was a strategic decision with analytics on their back end to support it. At the end of the day, it's an equation. By increasing their subscription price 50%, all they need to do is retain 66% of their current subscribers to be making the exact same amount of money for no additional effort. Which means even if 1 in 3 people cancel their Game Pass Ultimate subscription, Microsoft could not care less because they just have to service less customers for higher profit margins. Everyone wants to capture the richer clients because it's easier for them, and generally the richer clients are far more easygoing. Incredible wealth and financial stability usually chills people out a little bit. Someone who dumped their life savings on one car because it's their dream, like my example from the beginning, would also expect their purchase to carry that same amount of weight and expect far more out of their experience because it is a much bigger deal for them. It might be the biggest car purchase they've ever and ever will make. But if you're Ferrari, Porsche, McLaren, you don't even need to waste your time and deal with those people, those poors, like you and like me. If you are one of those poors, they'll still sell you something. Don't get me wrong, just not the good stuff. So long story short, yes, a lot of brands do gatekeep probably more than you even know, and likely do strive to gatekeep even more, kind of like Ferrari does now. That was quite a long tangent and way to explain that. So why don't we go all the way back to question 2 from before? Why does this even matter? If you're already rich, just buy the car used in a couple of years from now, right? Well, yeah. For those that are already very rich, it doesn't matter. But for everyone else, again, those people that might have saved, who knows, their entire life to be able to afford their dream car brand new, those are the people it matters to. The wealthy, but not ultra wealthy. Not ridiculously rich like a Fortune 500 CEO or very successful football player, just the level of wealth that, to be fair, most of us still probably won't be able to achieve, but a level that's more feasible, something that most people genuinely do strive for. When you've got that kind of money, the money to technically be able to afford a 992 GT3 RS new, but is still gatekept out of it, that's when it matters. Yes, it is the biggest first world problem ever. Oh, woe is me, why isn't my wealth treated the same way as the other guy's wealth? We've both got the money to buy the cool thing, but I'm not allowed to. Yeah, it's stupid, right? But it does suck because it really sets this horrible precedent that even if you do happen to make it in life, you can still get treated like you're just not good enough. You might get stuck in this weird limbo where you are very financially comfortable, but still excluded. It's like these companies are saying, you know, nice try, buddy, but still not good enough. So not only are you gatekept from buying the new dream car that you could afford at MSRP, you then might also get locked out of ever owning that car, period. Because even though, yeah, you could have afforded it at MSRP, maybe you won't be able to afford it at resale, because that ends up being far higher than the MSRP ever was, which just means that the already extremely rich person who gets that allocation and gets these cars at MSRP can just make even more money off the less rich people by selling it off later. These cars can literally become arbitrarily more expensive than you can afford, pal. The river between how successful you might become and the wealthy really is vast, which is a really great break to remind you that none of this actually matters. This is all just a weird, shitty game that elites play with each other because they can. So genuinely, appreciate what you have and fuck gatekeeping. It is so fucking miserable. But it is still interesting to talk about, isn't it? It's just that curiosity, that peek into what literally is basically another world from most of us normal people. So we've roughly talked about what it takes to get your foot in the door with a lot of these brands, but let's actually put it into perspective. Let's say you've got 3.9 million and some change to spare, which is enough to cover the MSRP of that new F80. Problem is, of course, you just got lucky. You happen to win your money in a recent lottery, so you're only a fresh Richie, which means there's no way in hell you are going to get that allocation. We covered the basics of the Clover acronym, you know, what you need to do to get that VIP status at Ferrari, but what does that actually look like? Over $20 million. It looks like spending over $20 million, all to not have to pay a $2.5 million markup on a new flagship Ferrari. So if you've only won a measly $5 million, you're priced out, even though you could technically afford the car. If you want a real example, this guy here from the Gentleman's Garage walked into a Ferrari dealership, dropped a casual $1 million, and only became what's known as an active customer. If I dropped $1 million cash, mind you, on anything, I would be expecting the full red carpet and I mean at least a happy ending to finish it off at the bare minimum. Like that is well and truly beyond life-changing amount of money for so many people. And Ferrari would still just treat you like the plate stuck at the bottom of the stack, bro. They don't want nothing to do with you. So much so that in that first $1 million you spend with a dealer, they won't even let you buy a new car. You have to start by, you know, buying all the rejects off the used lot. Then you need to spend far over $3 million to even become a VIP at Ferrari. And even that, even being a VIP still isn't enough to get you an allocation for that flagship F80. If you want it that bad, you're going to need to have a lot of other Ferraris in your collection. Again, cars like the F40, F50, Enzo, LaFerrari, or ideally, all of them. Then you got to be kissing some serious ass. You got to be glazing Ferrari harder than Formula One fans do. You got to be glazing them harder than girls in their friends' comment sections. You got to be glazing Ferrari harder than Optic Gaming does Call of Duty. And they absolutely love it, because if you are riding around in a flagship Ferrari, at the end of the day, you are a representation of their brand. And if you're influential, and all you have is good things to say about the brand, it's just a bonus for them. And of course, they're going to allocate you more cars. It's literally free marketing. In fact, you are paying them to market their product. You're in fact begging and pleading and on your knees doing absolute tricks on it to have the opportunity to market one of their cars for them. Hell, the cost per lead at Ferrari is probably a bloody profit per lead with the way they allocate their cars. Now again, it's not just Ferrari. There are anecdotes everywhere from other manufacturers where people experience the same kind of thing. People trying to get allocated, McLarens, Lamborghinis, Porsches, and so many others with little to no success. Just look at a couple of dedicated forums and you'll see thousands of straight up brokies with so much more money than I'll ever have, complaining that they can't get their allocation for a new GT3 RS or GT4 RS. Even influencers like Mark McCann and TJ Hunt can't get MSRP allocations for 992 GT3 RSs. TJ didn't get into it as much. He kind of made a video kind of glossing on it and just left it in the dust. Whereas Mark made multiple videos trying his best to buy one and give Porsche his money to no success. He got turned away at every step by every dealer he called. He also gets blatantly told that there is a list if you want to get allocated, and he's not on it. So if these guys have no chance, what chance do any of us have, even if we do make it? The answer is pretty much none. But okay, for argument's sake, let's say you really make it. Maybe Elon Musk gifts you $20 million to live out your supercar dreams, and it's a win for him because he can just write that off as a donation to, well, you know what you are. Here is where shit just gets egregious. Because even when you get the brand new car you wanted at MSRP, the gatekeeping still isn't over. First and foremost, you are usually chained to that car for at least a year or more, pending what the contract you have to sign allows. So even if the car just doesn't match the hype, doesn't meet the expectations, too bad. Not the worst issue to have, because I mean, I guess you can probably just sell it a little bit later after your contract allows for a bit of a profit, right? Wrong. In some instances, manufacturers like Ferrari will have a first right of refusal and not allow you to sell the car before they have the opportunity to buy it back from you. And they're not going to buy it at an inflated price. No, it has to come at a reasonable market rate, typically below MSRP. This obviously isn't always the case, and there are people that have gotten around it, but again, it has happened in the past. Even if you wait until you're technically allowed to sell the car outside of your contract terms. A lot of manufacturers just don't like that. And sometimes they won't punish you directly, but they will quietly remove your spot on the list for any future allocations. If you sell too soon within the contract's limitations, you could just be blacklisted entirely. Or, like what happened with John Cena, face a lawsuit. So really, if you just happen to hate the car, the best case scenario is for you to sell it back to the dealer, likely for below MSRP, to keep that relationship healthy. This shit is literally worse than office politics. But not only do they gatekeep you from sales, you might as well not even own the car, because some manufacturers gatekeep you from modifications, and many manufacturers also try to gatekeep you from repairs. Ferrari is the most notorious example of the former, with cease and desists being thrown around to the likes of Deadmau5 a little while ago when he wrapped his 458 and rebadged it as the Ferrari. And even the likes of John Blatton, who heavily modified his F40 LM in a way they just didn't like. And when it comes to the latter, bro, these guys are just fucking with you at this point. They are literally drop shipping you parts. Half the time when you're getting genuine parts from these luxury automakers, it's just the exact same product from another manufacturer with their name, SKU, and markup on top of it. Sometimes charging you something ridiculous like a, I don't know, 20 times premium, like what we saw with Matt Armstrong when he tried to order his hood latches straight from Lamborghini. You think you're getting genuine quality products made by that brand, when in reality, you're just getting something generic. And here's the thing. I don't think anyone really expects a manufacturer to hand make every single component on their car. Outsourcing in general is fine. Just be transparent about it. Don't trick people into buying these things from you at an exorbitant markup and then pretend it's OEM. The reason this becomes an issue outside of it just being unethical and a straight up dick move is that it gives unsuspecting people the illusion of maintenance being so much more expensive than it otherwise should be. No matter what, if you don't know how to work on your car, you're going to have to cop labor. There's no way around that. And mechanics should be paid well for their time. There's also no doubt about that. But getting absolutely rinsed for parts just feels shithouse. And with some manufacturers, you've just got no choice. They simply won't work on your car if you don't also buy the parts directly from them. Even if you can supply the exact same OEM parts they're using. Now, I get why that can be the case, because maybe the margin they're making on the parts they order is then going into the labor costs for the staff to install them, which is why you can get a brand new set of tires with free fitment and balancing, whereas if you were to bring your own tires to a tire shop, the shop will quote you nearly the same damn price as a whole new set of tires cost just to fit and balance the ones you brought. And when it comes to tire shops, I understand it more. But do you really expect me to feel sorry for the poor shareholders and executives at luxury car brands that, oh, I only want to pay my staff good wages if I can extort people for parts way more than they should cost? Like, come on, bro. Oh, they don't want to buy brake pads from us at a 20 times markup? Well, I don't want to do the install. Like, come on, man. I will, in fact, do it myself. Thanks. Like, bro, at the end of the day, it is daylight robbery and most people don't even realize it. Which all comes full circle back to my gatekeeping point. Because you might have heard the term, yeah, bud, you can afford this car, but can you really afford the maintenance on it? And the truth is, you can afford it. You just can't afford to get absolutely milked for the maintenance. Which again, a lot of luxury automakers do not like. They would rather sell to someone with deep pockets and absolutely no awareness of what's going on. And to that end, a lot of them don't even mind having the reputation of being expensive and hard to own and maintain. If anything, they want you to keep the rumors going, please. All it's doing is weeding out the brokies. And think about it. If you're selling cars to, let's say, older people with a healthy chunk of change, but maybe not quite as much mechanical knowledge, they'll probably just say yes to anything the dealer says. Sometimes they might get a little bit shocked by the bill at the end, but that's just what it costs, right? Then they'll tell their son, hey, buddy, you can afford the BMW outright, but there is no way you can afford the ongoing maintenance, with their only reference point being the fact that their bills have always been super high, not realizing they have just literally been taken for a ride for years on end. And the only person that wins in that scenario is BMW, because once that rumor circulates, then people will just come to expect it being super expensive, and those that just want a nice car and don't know what they don't know won't question the crazy quotes they get for repairs either, and the cycle just continues. But this video isn't about BMW. They wouldn't even make the list of worst offenders in terms of automotive gatekeeping. So coming all the way back to where we started, money. Money can't buy you everything, at least not the amount of money you can save as a relatively normal or even successful person. So I guess it's not a fact that money can't buy you everything, it's just that you don't and you won't ever have enough money. You can't save your way to a flagship Ferrari, and they don't want you to.